The void of space had never felt so crowded. The Galactic Concordance fleet emerged from their jump points in perfect formation, 1,000 ships bristling with weapons designed to inspire terror. This was their standard protocol: arrive in overwhelming force, deliver the ultimatum, and watch as yet another species bowed before the might of the Concordance. Commander 𝗕𝗲𝘀 stood on the bridge of the flagship, mandibles twitching in anticipation. His tactical officers had briefed him on humanity, a young, fractured civilization, barely unified enough to be considered a single polity. They would tremble. They would beg. The transmission was sent on all frequencies, a booming declaration in carefully translated standard. *people of Earth. You stand at the precipice of annihilation or assimilation. The Galactic Concordance offers you one chance: surrender unconditionally, or be reduced to ashes. Silence. And laughter. Not defiance, not panic, not even anger. Just laughter. It started as scattered chuckles and intercepted broadcasts, then swelled into a planet-wide wave of hysteria. Social media erupted with memes. Aliens photoshopped into ridiculous poses mock serious reaction videos, a trending hashtag. #SpaceKarensArrive. 𝗕𝗲𝘀's tactical AI flagged it as a psychological warfare tactic. They seek to unbalance us with false bravado, the machine intoned. But then came the final blow. A child's voice piped through a hacked civilian feed, lisping a perfect imitation of 𝗕𝗲𝘀's proclamation. *people of Earth. Gimme your lunch money or I'll. Giggles drowned out the rest. The video went supernova. On the bridge, the aliens froze. Their entire doctrine relied on fear. But you can't fear something you're busy mercilessly roasting. 𝗕𝗲𝘀's claws tightened. This wasn't going according to plan. The Concordance's linguists worked frantically, parsing terabytes of human data streams. Their translation matrices had been calibrated for threats, pleas, and formal surrender, not whatever this was. Explain the term "clap back," demanded Scholar Crix, scanning another flood of social media posts. The AI hesitated. Literal translation: to strike hands together in response. Context suggests verbal retaliation delivered with stylistic flair. Crix's antennae twitched. And this ratio they keep referencing. A form of humiliation where one's insults are deemed inferior by collective mockery. A junior officer piped up. "Sir, their news networks are airing something called a press conference." The screen flickered to reveal a single human seated at a desk, grinning. "In response to our new friend's generous offer," the man said, "Earth's united governments have selected an official ambassador." The aliens straightened. Finally, a proper diplomatic channel. Then the human added, "Please welcome Ambassador Dave Chappelle." A second man strolled into frame, smirk already in place. "So y'all flew across the galaxy just to get roasted live on interplanetary TV? Bold." The Concordance's communication officer looked to 𝗕𝗲𝘀. "Commander, their chosen representative appears to be a professional humorist." Dave launched into an improvised routine about the fleet's overcompensating spaceships, and the aliens watched in horror as their terrifying warships were compared to giant metal dildos. The human audience howled. Crix's datapad pinged. An urgent report from the cultural analysis team. "Sir, we've traced their behavior to a phenomenon called trolling. It involves deliberately provoking." 𝗕𝗲𝘀 slammed a fist down. "Enough. If they will not respect our authority, we will." "Commander," a tactical officer interrupted. "Their internet is now claiming we're here to steal their nuclear pasta." "What?" "It's a terrestrial joke, sir. They're suggesting we invaded because we're addicted to their carbohydrate-based weaponry." Silence filled the bridge. The humans weren't afraid. They weren't even angry. They were treating this like a game. And the Concordance had no rules for that. The humans had officially declared war. Not with weapons. Not with threats. But with the most devastating arsenal the Concordance had ever encountered. Unrelenting, unchecked absurdity. It began when the fleet's internal comms were hacked. One moment, 𝗕𝗲𝘀 was issuing orders to tighten orbital blockades. The next, every speaker on every ship blasted a primitive terrain musical composition. Never gonna give you up. Crew members froze mid-stride as the warbling human vocals echoed through the halls. Report. 𝗕𝗲𝘀 snarled. Sir, our systems have been compromised by what appears to be an ancient mating chant. On Earth, forums exploded with glee. We rickrolled the aliens, trended globally within minutes. The Concordance countermeasures were immediate and disastrous. Their cybersecurity protocols, designed to repel brute force attacks, crumpled against human creativity. Firewalls meant to stop warship hijackings were useless against a species that treated digital intrusion as sport. Then came the visual assaults. Overnight, every display screen across the fleet began intermittently flashing images of grotesquely altered alien faces, elongated snouts, cartoonish eyes, accompanied by text reading, "Uwu noticed you are fleet, senpai." Worse still were the defectors. Younger crew members, exposed to human media through the breaches, started exhibiting alarming symptoms. They'd pause at their stations, mandibles twitching in erratic patterns. When confronted, they'd insist it wasn't laughter, just respiratory malfunctions. Yet security feeds captured them secretly watching human comedy streams during off hours. The final blow came from Earth's scientific community. A deliberately leaked, classified document claimed humanity was protected by quantum sarcasm fields, invisible barriers that converted hostile intent into harmless humor. The aliens' own scientists spent 72 frantic hours trying to disprove it before realizing they'd been had. 𝗕𝗲𝘀 stared at the latest report. An entire battalion of shock troops had refused deployment after watching a single human video titled *How to Hug Your Local Invader*. His second-in-command approached carefully. Sir, perhaps we should consider that these humans cannot be conquered through conventional. No. 𝗕𝗲𝘀's exoskeleton rattled with fury. We are the Galactic Concordance. We do not retreat before jokes. But on the tactical display, flickering beneath the fleet's proud insignia, someone had drawn a crude mustache on 𝗕𝗲𝘀's official portrait. No one dared remove it. The Galactic Concordance fleet had faced rebellions, plasma storms, and rogue black holes. None of those compared to the existential horror of being memed into submission. It started with the surrender demands, except this time, humans were the ones sending them. The official transmission arrived packaged as a parody of the Concordance's original ultimatum, complete with exaggerated dramatic pauses and a laugh track. Dear scary space overlords, it began. We regret to inform you that your attempted invasion has been downgraded to a moderately inconvenient space tourism event. Per Earth bylaws, you must now either a. Admit this was all just a very elaborate prank or b. Submit to a cultural exchange program where we teach you how to be less, you. 𝗕𝗲𝘀's claws dug into the command console. His crew avoided his gaze. The bridge smelled faintly of whatever the humans had aerosolized into the air vents last week, something called cheese powder that made the entire ship reek like a teenager's basement. Then the final transmission hit. A single video file, labeled * for your consideration. * it opened with a montage of the fleet's most humiliating moments set to upbeat music. Alien shock troops getting photobombed by grinning humans, warships accidentally targeting decoy balloons shaped like cartoon characters, security feeds of crew members secretly attempting to replicate human dance moves. The video ended with text. * You came to conquer. Instead you got adopted. Welcome to Earth, nerds. * Silence. A choked sound from the communications officer. 𝗕𝗀𝘀 whirled, ready to discipline the insubordination. But the officer wasn't laughing. They were crying. It's just, the officer rasped. They didn't even hate us. The revelation hit like a plasma torpedo. Humanity's defiance wasn't hatred. It was inclusion by mockery. They treated the galaxy's most feared military force like obnoxious cousins who showed up unannounced. And somewhere between the memes and the pranks, The concordants had stopped being invaders and become participants. 𝗦𝗫𝗀𝘀's mandibles clicked softly. On screen, the video looped back to a human child waving at a surveillance drone. "Recall all troops," he said finally. "And someone tell Earth we accept option B." 3 solar cycles later, the first human comedy clubs opened on concordance worlds. Their opening act: a reformed shock troupe doing stand-up about getting rickrolled mid-invasion. The crowd, aliens and humans alike, lost it. And somewhere in the universe, the concept of conquest quietly died of embarrassment. The first Galactic Comedy Award ceremony was held on what used to be the Concordance flagship. The war room had been converted into a green room, with former shock troops now serving as bouncers and stagehands. The main viewing screen, once displaying tactical readouts of Earth's annihilation, now showed a live feed of the galaxy's hottest new comedy duo, a human improv artist and a former Concordance demolitions expert doing crowd work about cultural misunderstandings. 𝗦𝗫𝗀𝘀 sat in what the humans insisted on calling the VIP section, though he was fairly certain the acronym stood for something obscene. His ceremonial armor had been replaced with a t-shirt reading asterisk, "I invaded Earth and all I got was this lousy punchline." Asterisk, he still wasn't entirely sure how that had happened. On stage, Ambassador Dave was roasting the front row. "So this guy," he pointed at a flustered Concordance admiral, "thought Netflix and chill meant we wanted to stream documentaries about ice planets. Bro brought a damn spectrometer." The audience howled, including half the admiral's own crew. Backstage, human and alien producers debated categories for next year's awards. "Best newcomer is obvious," a human argued, gesturing to a former boarding party commander whose deadpan delivery about failed invasion tactics had gone viral. "But what about lifetime achievement?" a Concordance cultural liaison asked. The room fell silent as all heads turned toward 𝗦𝗫𝗀𝘀's hologram feed. The once feared commander sighed, mandibles clicking in resignation. "I suppose I did provide the setup for an entire planet's worth of punchlines." The resulting standing ovation lasted 7 full minutes, a new record in both human and Concordance history. Meanwhile, in a previously uninhabited star system, a new colony was thriving. Founded jointly by human comedians and ex-Concordance soldiers, its official charter contained just one law: asterisk, no bit lasts forever. Know when to exit, stage left. Asterisk. The galaxy had expected humanity's first interstellar war to change everything. Nobody predicted it would change everything for the better. The Galactic Comedy Network's ratings were plummeting. Not because the content was bad. Quite the opposite. The problem was that after 5 years of human-alien cultural exchange, the entire concept of shocking humor had become mathematically impossible. When your audience includes species that find existential dread hilarious and others that consider puns the height of rebellion, traditional comedy frameworks collapse. A crisis meeting was called at GCN headquarters. The last purebred Concordance executive slammed his appendages on the table. "Our analytics show a 900% drop in surprise value since humans introduced us to anti-humor. How are we supposed to?" The doors burst open. A human intern wheeling a cart loaded with glowing cubes grinned wildly. "Sorry I'm late. I was calibrating the new joke delivery system." The cubes pulsed ominously. "What is that?" "Quantum entangled punchlines." The intern tapped a cube, making it emit a sad trombone noise. "Tell the setup anywhere in the galaxy, and the payoff happens simultaneously in 400,000 locations. We're calling it the Big Bang Theory 2.0. The room fell silent. Then the Tarkelian producer started vibrating. Their species' version of uncontrollable laughter. You made jokes into weapons of mass destruction." The intern winked. "Nope. Weapons of mass construction." That night's broadcast broke all records. A single human comedian standing on New Vega Prime delivered the setup. "So 3 gluons walk into a bar." Across the galaxy, the punchline manifested in perfect sync. Drinks spilled, aliens snorted their equivalent of beverages, and an entire space station had to be evacuated when the 𝗕𝗲𝗀𝗀's ambassador laughed so hard they inverted their own gravity field. Back on Earth, the original comedy clubs now stood empty. They weren't needed anymore. The universe itself had become the stage. 𝗕𝗲𝗀𝗀, now CEO of 𝗕𝗲𝘀 watched the metrics scroll across his screen. His human co-founder clapped him on the carapace. "Told you we'd change the game." The former conqueror sighed happily. "I miss the days when we thought orbital bombardment was the ultimate power." Somewhere in the Andromeda Galaxy, a previously unknown species received their first transmission. It was just 2 words. Knock knock. The knock knock heard across the universe became the single most disruptive event in galactic history. Not because it was funny, though it was, but because nobody could agree on who should answer. Protocols crumbled. Traditions dissolved. The Andromedan species, who had never encountered humor before, spent 3 solar cycles debating whether "who's there" was a philosophical inquiry or declaration of war. Their greatest minds formed think tanks to analyze the tonal inflection of the second knock. Meanwhile, the original human comedy collectives had evolved into something far more dangerous. Stand-up philosophers. These rogue humorists traveled the cosmos performing what they called existential crowd work, reducing entire civilizations to helpless laughter with observations like, "If a precursor species leaves an entire Dyson sphere just sitting around, is it really ancient technology? Or just cosmic littering?" The Concordance's remaining traditionalists tried fighting back with bureaucracy. They established the Intergalactic Humor Regulatory Commission to standardize joke formats and issue laugh permits. It lasted exactly 17 minutes before a human comedian registered as a satirical performance artist, got the entire department disbanded by proving their guidelines could classify a supernova as inappropriate workplace humor. Even the laws of physics weren't safe. When scientists discovered that sufficiently advanced civilizations could manipulate reality through collective belief, humanity weaponized it immediately. The first test. Convincing 3 trillion beings across 12 galaxies that the speed of light was just a suggestion. The resulting temporary localized collapse of causality gave rise to the first ever time-traveling pun. 𝗕𝗲𝗀𝗀𝗀, now retired and running an illegal joke smuggling ring on the edge of known space, watched the chaos unfold with what humans called parental pride. His latest shipment, a cargo hold full of whoopee cushions modified for zero-gravity environments, was destined for the newly discovered Omega Collective, a species so serious they'd never invented smiling. His human business partner monitored the delivery drones. "Think they're ready for this?" The former conqueror adjusted his novelty sunglasses. "Nobody's ever ready. That's what makes it funny." As the package breached the Omega homeworld's atmosphere, the first cushion deployed perfectly, right beneath the Supreme Chancellor's ceremonial hover throne. The resulting noise echoed across the planet's comm systems. Somewhere, in the fabric of reality itself, the universe giggled. The Omega Collective's surrender was the most anticlimactic event in recorded history. Not because it lacked significance, but because their official statement of capitulation kept getting interrupted by their own ambassadors bursting into sudden, uncontrollable giggles. The problem wasn't the whoopee cushions. It was the realization. Humanity hadn't just weaponized humor, they'd weaponized joy itself. And the Omega, a species biologically incapable of deception, found themselves physically unable to maintain their trademark solemnity when confronted with the sheer absurdity of existence. Their greatest philosophers, upon hearing the classic "Why did the chicken cross the road?" bit, suffered simultaneous existential crises when they realized the answer was both meaningless and profound. Meanwhile, the last holdouts of the Concordance's old guard found themselves outmaneuvered by their own grandchildren. The new generation, raised on human memes and improv comedy, had quietly rewritten all military protocols into elaborate comedy routines. Attempts to launch serious counteroffensives kept getting derailed by cadets inserting punchlines into strategic briefings. The final blow came when the Concordance's most decorated admiral accidentally became a viral sensation. His impassioned speech about restoring order to the galaxy was auto-captioned by human AI as Grumpy Space Grandpa Yells at Cloud. By the time the meme finished circulating through 12 galactic networks, even his own bridge crew couldn't maintain discipline. On Earth, the original comedy clubs had been repurposed as museums. Tour groups shuffled past exhibits like The First Rickroll and Original Dank Memes, circa 2020s. Children pressed their noses against glass cases containing ancient artifacts, wireless keyboards used by legendary trolls, the last surviving "That's What She Said" joke preserved in carbonite. A new generation of comedians no longer performed for audiences. Instead, they worked in laboratories, collaborating with quantum physicists and xenobiologists to engineer the next evolution of humor. Early tests suggested that certain joke structures, when delivered at sufficient scale, could alter the fundamental constants of reality. The lead researcher scrolled through the latest data. Turns out the universe has a sense of humor after all. It's just really, really dark. Somewhere in the cosmic background radiation, a pattern emerged. A sequence of pulses perfectly matching the rhythm of a classic knock-knock joke. The universe, it seemed, was finally answering.